Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for inviting me. This kind of very important. So could you see? Do you see my slide? Okay. No. Okay. So I like to talk about the current situation of the gene editing product in Japan. So first of all, I think all kinds of regulatory discussion in Japan started from this publication from Joint Research Center in 2011. So from this report, Japanese government started discussions. And after 2011,
Mr. Masashi, you have to take the control of the slides. It is resolved that you didn't yet. Okay, now it's working,
okay.
Please.
So after 2011, the Japanese government started actively collecting information related to gene editing, and interest among scientists have grown rapidly. And that led to the establishment of the academic society, like Japanese Society of Gene Editing. Also, many government-funded research projects started thereafter, as you can see here. Now, today we have two gene-edited products which have successfully notified to the government. First product is high GABA tomato, mentioned by Professor Dauduna, developed by the University of Tsukuba. It was placed on the market from last month. The second notification was about madai fish, like we eat as a sashimi. So madai fish becomes bigger compared with the conventional one because of myostatin knockout. So from this slide, I would like to explain the regulatory issue of gene-edited products. First of all, I would like to explain general framework of GMO regulation in Japan. Basically, we are watching GM product safety from three aspects, from environment and food and feed, shown as here. So environment safety is covered by Japanese Carcinogen Act under the Ministry of Environment, MOE, and food safety covered by Food Sanitation Law under the Ministry of Health. And also feed safety is covered by Feed Safety Law by the Ministry of Agriculture. And based on existing GMO regulatory framework, Japanese government have discussed regulatory status of gene-edited products. Since there were various discussions within government section, it took time to reach conclusion. But the momentum to really tackle with this issue had heightened when the cabinet ordered each ministry to settle the issue by March 2019. So it's kind of top-down decision by the cabinet office. So in response to this order, and after the intense discussion, clarification was made by both Minister of Environment and Ministry of Health in 2019. I'm going to explain in detail in the following slide, but in essence, Ministry of Environment determined SDN1 not subject to regulation, but asked to provide information and made open to public. And the Ministry of Health also determined SDN1 and also in case of SDN2 on a case-by-case basis, not subject to regulation, but required prior notification and information made open to the public. So for the product intended to be released in the environment, MOE considered based on the definition in the Cartagena Act, which states LMO is organism that possess inserted nucleic acid processed out of cell. Basically, it looks the final product whether there is insertions of externally processed nucleic acid. And if that is absent in the final product, then it is considered to be out of the scope of the regulation. But even for those that are not within the scope of the regulation, if developers intended to place the product on the market, they are asked to provide information, and those in red circle are to be published on the Biotech Clearinghouse website. For food, Ministry of Health Council considers slightly different from that of Ministry of Environment. They asked whether the risk is similar to conventional breeding or GMO. Blue part is the conventional and red part is the GMO. Obviously, SDN1, a directed mutation without the use of template, considered to be similar to the conventional, and SDN3, as it contains foreign genes, is GMO. But for SDN2 in the middle part, they said that it's up to the Ministry of Health decision on a case-by-case basis. So all the developers has to undergo the prior consultation. Then Ministry of Health decide to whether the products fall within the scope of regulation or not. And if the product is out of the scope, not subject to the regulation, it will go on to notification process. But those products not subject to regulation must submit information, and the summary of the product will be posted on the ministry's website. The information required are as shown here. So now I would like to touch upon the background of the Japanese Cartagena Act and show how the Ministry of Environment can draw the above-mentioned conclusion regarding gene-edited product. In order to understand the reasoning of Ministry of Environment, we need to understand how the Japanese government had stipulated the act based on the Cartagena Protocol. So this is very busy slide, sorry. This is a slide explaining the definition of LMOs in the Cartagena Protocol and the Japanese Cartagena Act. As you can see, the definition of LMO is almost the same, but there are slight differences in the wording. Japan maintains the word possess, but avoid using words such as novel or modern, because those words are very elusive and difficult to interpret. Instead, those words are replaced with the words such as nucleic acid and specified technologies. So as you can see, SD and 1 are out of the scope because the organism does not possess the nucleic acid obtained through the use of recombinant DNA technologies. Also, SDN2 using templates and SDN3 are within the scope because they are prepared outside of the cell. So this slide explains about the policy for the Consumer Affairs Agency. The policy for labeling of gene-edited food was also issued by the Consumer Affairs Agency, in line with the distinction between made by the Ministry of Health. The Consumer Agency classified the gene-edited product into GM and notified product. They said the labeling is not mandatory. However, the agency also encourages the developers to provide information through labeling. So this is my conclusion. As you can see, maybe I like to skip this slide, so maybe you can see the summary of the Japanese situation. Thank you so much.